So live radio, it's fun, always fun stuff, right? Till somebody gets hurt. What do they say? It's always fun till something. Phil Steele is now DMing me. Okay. He's telling me that he's trying to call me, but it says it cannot be completed. You know, this is fun. I looked down at our modem when we went to the break, and it was dead. And it was unplugged. And that's fun because, well, the fun thing about doing this is that a million things can go wrong and usually do. It seems our little pet, Lulu, kicked the cord out from our modem overnight last night. So if I miss my man Phil Steele, I don't miss Phil Steele, though. Because the great Phil Steele, the annual's out. He had to wait to go to press, probably because of that idiotic Nico situation. Not to mention this stupid spring transfer portal. Phil Steele, welcome in. I hope you're well, and I hope the summer's treating you okay thus far, my friend.
Tony, 31 years, buddy. 31 years we've been doing this. Thank you. Thank you for having me on the very first year of the magazine, 1995, and yeah, doing well. And I tell you what, you mentioned the transfer portal. That thing is a pain in my butt. And the thing I noticed this year, Tony, which was remarkable, is that a lot of the kids that signed in the winter left after the spring was over. They can't even stay out of school for a couple of months now.
It's just utterly stupid. You know, Watson Brown joins us. He used to coach at Vandy, you know, way back in the day, and he joins us every Wednesday, and he's like, you know, the problem with today's game is offensive linemen don't stick around if they don't play right away, which inhibits their growth, and quarterbacks don't stick around. Like, I'm looking at Nico's class, and a lot of those guys are on school number 2. A lot of them are on school number 3. It's no wonder the NFL can't find quarterbacks, Phil. It's no wonder it's no wonder the Southeastern Conference can't find reputable quarterbacks compared to years past.
Yeah, and what are we teaching the kids nowadays too? You know, every time you get a little bit of trouble, just leave, go somewhere else. The grass is greener on the other side. That's not the way to bring a player up. I mean, how do you grow as a player, jumping from system to system?
Well, and that's why I'm going to quit you after today. Because you have my Vols like in the mid 40s, and say in this day and age, if you don't tell me what I want to hear and get in my echo chamber, I cancel you. See, that's how this works now. So we're going to carry on like the kids do on social media. Phil, how much of what you do when you put those rankings together, how much of it is feel? How much of it is just from your perspective, just spitting and throwing the information into the machine, and this is what the numbers tell me?
I would say the numbers are probably 75% of what I do. And then you take a look at the numbers, and sometimes I'm like, well, that's pretty strong. And the numbers, by the way, have got me to be the most accurate magazine over the last 30 years. But when I look at the numbers, there are times where I say, you know what, I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm going to go a little different than that. But I would say the majority of the time I do side with what my computer numbers come with, because it's 9 different sets of power ratings. It's tried and true, and I do adjust it for all the different changes that are going on in college football nowadays. And it's worked out pretty well.
We put in the blog today, I put a little account of the time that you came on and predicted doom for the Vols, and I roughed you up in the summer. And then we brought you back that fall, and I said, hey, man, take a victory lap. And you were like, well, nobody's ever let me do that before. And then there was another time where you predicted that Tennessee was going to have a long season, and they actually went on and had a pretty good year, and we brought you back, and we had some fun with you. And so, you know, the thing about what you do is, obviously, you're not always going to get it right. Nobody does. But you have to kind of believe your numbers, don't you? Now, let me ask you this. If Nico stays, right, what do you think Tennessee looks like in your magazine? Because certainly they're not 44 in America. That quarterback component is obviously a huge part of this modern game.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, you know, I did that's an interesting question you have, Tony, and let me take you back to February. In February, I do my predicted AP top 10. And the worst we've ever done on my projected AP top 10 is hit 9 of the 10 teams. Half of the years, I think we've been doing it for 15 years. 8 of the years we've had 10 of the 10. Yeah, I tell you who the AP top 50 or top 10 is going to be in August, 6 months in advance. We've hit 10 of 10, 8 of the 15 years, and 9 of 10, 7 of the 15 years. Well, this year I had Tennessee number 10 in my February one, but after Nico left, I actually had to pull him out of there sometime whenever that happened. It was, April? And I switched Miami of Florida in there. It's the first time I've ever had to make that change. So, yes, I would have been a lot higher on Tennessee had Nico been there. I still think Tennessee can have a good year this year. No doubt about that. And when you look at the schedule, I probably have them right now at 9-3 on the year. In fact, when we go through the lines like we always do, I've got them favored in 9 of their 12 games this year. But I would have had them even higher than that.
Phil Steele's magazine is out. Don't you dare go through the college football season without it. We never do around here. Travel with it. Bring it to the live remotes when we're down at Calhoun's on the River. You'll see it sitting with us. It's a great reference in the moment for our winners and losers program that we do. It is absolutely a must to keep near you at all times. It's a terrific reference, and Phil has got this thing down to an absolute science, but he also has Tennessee 44th in the country from where he projected the AP would have him at 10, which is a precipitous fall after Nico walks out. And Phil, just as an aside here before we dig into the Vols, where do you have UCLA? Where do you see them now that Nico's gone there? Because Tennessee and UCLA are going to be linked this year. I think they're going to get great ratings whenever they play here locally, if you know what I mean. A lot of hate watching going on.
Well, yeah, one thing I do want to mention, though, is I also have a power poll in the magazine, which is where I rate the strength of the teams. And in the power poll, I have Tennessee number 20.
Yeah.
So I do think they still are a very talented team, a top 20 team. It's just the schedule, the way it played out this year, had me down at the run when I was racing through the top 40. That's why I put them at the 44 spot. But UCLA, I do not have ranked. I have them number 14 in the Big Ten. I still have them low. I think they will be an improved team under Deshaun Foster. You look at them last year, they played a hellacious schedule at the start of the year. They played Indiana, LSU, Oregon, Penn State, all back-to-back, and opened up the year 1-5. But they won 4 of their last 6 games last year to finish 5-7, including knocking off Iowa and Nebraska, which were a couple of impressive wins. Talking to Deshaun Foster, I do think he has a better team this year, but I don't think Nico's going to go over there and make a huge difference for them. I still haven't picked at the bottom of the Big Ten this year.
What kind of cast does he have around him when you look at his offense? What kind of cast do you see Nico having?
Well, you look at running back, I would say it's average. Jalen Berger comes over from Michigan State last year, had 178 yards. They've got Javian Thomas coming over from Cal, Anthony Fries. No superstars there. You look at the receiving core, Mikey Matthews is a guy from California that had 272 yards last year, decent. Quasi Gilmore is a guy that played very good in spring practice, had 345 yards last year. So I would rate it as a pedestrian receiving core. I have the receiving core. Running backs not ranked in my top running back units. Offensive line not ranked in my top offensive line units. And wide receivers are ranked number 57. So compared to what he would have had at Tennessee, it doesn't compare.
Phil Steele joining, and then he's living in California, Phil, and he's making half the money. And he's going to take we don't even have state income tax here. I mean, I don't understand for the life of me what that kid was doing, but we'll get to that. And I want to get to the Vols here momentarily. Matt Dixon now jumping in as Phil Steele joins. Phil's got the Vols 44th, but 20th in his power poll. In the team write-up, said that he thinks Tennessee could be a legitimate playoff contender in his write-up is Phil Steele trying to have it both ways here on the TLD Logistics phone line and in his magazine, or is it that we're living in such confusing times when we're trying to quantify what's going on in major college football in these sports? And is Tennessee the test case? Matt Dixon, jump in here with us. As Matt, you're on with Phil Steele.
Yeah, Phil, always great to talk to you, by the magazine every year. But just talking about these ratings and how you get these, these formulas, like how does that work with the portal and just there's just so much roster turnover. It feels almost impossible to be able to get an accurate gauge, yet you still somehow do for the most part. Like, what's changed about your models now that the portal's kind of here and so many teams use it and there's just so much, teams just don't have the same starters back, especially at quarterback?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Matt. A lot of things have changed in the magazine in the last 5 years, no doubt about it. We've gone to the press later to capture all the transfer portal moves that have happened. It used to be as soon as spring practice was over, I could talk to the head coaches and go over the team with them. Now, not only do I have to wait for spring practice to be over, I have to wait for the damn portal to close. So I had to try to cram in 125, 126 coaches calls, all in the month of May, a 30-day process. And that's when I do my third write-through of the magazine. The first write-through, I still do the same exact way. It's right after the season's over. I talk about what kind of position each unit was in coming into the year, what happened during the year, what kind of shape are they for next year. Now, naturally, I know that last part's going to change, and then the second write-through we do at the start of spring when the rosters are announced after the first portal, and I redo the recap part of it. The first two parts of it won't change, and then the third is after talking to the head coaches. Well, as mentioned, now I'm trying to cram all the head coaches into the month of May and get it all done so that I can get this magazine off to the press in June. As far as my formulas go, generally not all transfers work out. And going through the teams with the coaches, you're looking at each player and who signed last year and who did what. There's a lot of transfer portal signees that ended up not playing and not producing.
Yep.
So I don't count them as a returning starter unless they've earned the starting job in the spring. And the one thing that I factored into this year when I did the magazine is the continuity of a team. How many teams have a lot of freshmen that they signed, that they brought up? You look at, like Ohio State last year, for example. Yes, they had some marquee transfers, but the bulk of the team was signed as freshmen at Ohio State. Same thing with Clemson. They won the ACC. Same thing with Iowa State. They played in the Big 12 title game. Army and Navy had the same players since they signed. All those teams had success last year. So I factored that in a little bit more this year, teams that weren't just going crazy in the portal. I remember I had a conversation with Coach Beck of Coastal Carolina. I said, Coach Beck, man, last year you had 68 new players, but now you're in the third year of the program. At least we're getting some continuity. He's like, Phil, this year we got 69 new players. So there are teams that are just turning over at a ridiculous pace, and that's why I picked teams like West Virginia and Oklahoma State very low in the Big 12 because they just have had so much transfer portal movement. And in West Virginia's case, for example, so many players were coming in after spring practice was over. How do you get a team together if half the team is coming in after spring practice is over? So I think team continuity was a big factor in my ratings this year.
Phil Steele taking a few for us. A great question by Matt because, I mean, look, Florida State last year is case in point. You can look at a roster, but they had zero continuity. We had no idea what they were going to do. They were ranked really highly based on the alleged talent that was there. But, Phil, there's just no way of knowing. I mean, I'm watching Vegas. It seems like it takes Vegas about a month to catch up to these teams these days.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, Tony. It is tough. And, a lot of times the coaches don't know. And so that's why I really, this year in the magazine, you'll see a lot of the teams I've picked higher than other folks have is based on that continuity basis. They know what they have. They know the players have been there, and they've got that team cohesion.
Yep.
These teams that are bringing in 75 new players, it's a bunch of mercenaries. How do you get those guys together believing as a team, whereas a team that's been together a long time, I think they'd have their advantages, and it showed last year.
Brian Hartman jump in here with Phil Steele, who joins us. Again, Phil, we're angry with him right now. He's got the Vols 44th in his poll, but calls Tennessee in his team write-up and just said it a second ago. He had him 20th in his preseason power poll. And again, we're not breaking news here, but a lot of this is going to depend on how Joey Aguilar adjusts and how quickly, because Tennessee has a navigable schedule. If they can get there, they've got a navigable schedule. It's a matter of getting there. Brian Hartman, jump in.
Yeah, I look at the teams that you maybe 15 through 30 or 25 through 50. Is that a case of you could probably just throw them all in a hat and come up with a different ranking each time because it's hard to separate them? Or what did you see in 9 ACC teams that you've got them ranked higher than Tennessee? You've got Florida State, who was 2-10 last year. They're 13 spots higher than the Vols at 31.
That's not true, Brian. He didn't
Nebraska,
do that.
who's really struggled, they're 28. What about those teams that you see in them that you've got them at where you have them?
Phil, you didn't do that, did you? You didn't put 9 ACC teams ahead of my Volunteers, did you?
That I can't tell you. I have to go look, but I think Brian's probably looking at the page telling you that right now.
What are we doing here, Phil?
Let me give you full disclosure of what went on with the top 40 rankings this year. All right, completely full disclosure. We were out of time, and I did an article I did a blog on this on philsteele.com, which talked about the fact that we had to hit our deadline of June the 7th or June 6th, whatever it was, or else we were going to get pushed back 3 weeks for the magazine, and we were completely out of time. So I'm frantically typing my top 40 as I was going, and basically I went off my computer numbers, projected wins for the season for the teams on the right-hand column, and then I'm typing in the recap real quick, and I'm trying to do this whole thing in a short period of time. That's why we have a little bit of discrepancy, as you mentioned, Tony, with the fact that when you look at Tennessee, to me there's 2 key games for Tennessee this year. Oklahoma and at Florida. I think they lose against Georgia. I think they lose against Alabama. If they can beat Oklahoma at home and they beat Florida on the road, you're looking at a team that goes 10-2 and makes the playoff for a second season in a row. Now, if they lose to Oklahoma and lose to Florida on the road, then you're looking at an 8-4 team, and that's what my computer must have been coming up with, was 8-4 on them. And when I'm looking at the 8 and typing them in, I'm picking my 9.5s over the 8s. The key for my top 40 rankings is to get the teams with the best records at the end of the year. That's why Tennessee's number 20 in the power poll. But it was a little frantic down the stretch. I got to be honest with you, Tony, on that last day when we're putting the magazine together. I've got some typos on my surprise team page, which you could tell we were just slamming pages out of here in the last day. The majority of the information in the magazine, 98% of the information in the magazine is perfect, and that's what I wanted. I wanted each team page to be perfect, have my write-ups perfect, but there was a couple pages at the end that just sort of got slammed out, and unfortunately the top 40 was one of them, which would probably be, if I had more thought put into it, I probably would have picked Tennessee a little bit higher and not behind 9 ACC teams. So that's a great question. I appreciate you asking it. It was a very unusual year, and I got to tell you, if they stay with this 2 transfer portal thing, I got to move it back to like June 15th to put this thing out and have it perfect like it was, because I was unhappy with some of the typos that got through this year's magazine. Well, thank you, Brian.
And here's the deal with Phil. We've known Phil for literally, I called him his first year he was doing the deal. I was a kid doing the deal. And just as a full disclosure here, I would go to this is the world we lived in. I would go to the magazine aisle in the supermarket as a kid and walk in there with a piece. I didn't have $1 to my name. I'd walk in there with a piece of paper, and I would write down who the publisher was, what the phone number was of this one, of that one, of this one, of that one. Phil's like the last guy left, by the way, and he's one of the first guys I called, and we had him on. I think, Phil, you said earlier, that first year, I think we had you on that first year, and I remember you asking me at the time, which kind of stands out to me, how did you find it, or how did you find me, or that sort of thing. But one thing I've known about you is that you've always strived for accuracy. You've never been a clicks and hits guy. That's never been you. You've never been a I need to go viral guy. So a little grace can be afforded to you, because this really right now, what they've done here to this sport in particular is really insane. Like that spring window and the way that fell on, and look, it fell on Tennessee this year, but they're not going to be last. Like, starting quarterbacks, now that bubble's been broken, there's no telling how many of these guys are going to hold it over these teams and say, hey, if you don't pay us some money, we're going to do like Nico did. And it really kind of wrecks your season. It really puts you behind the 8 ball. But more than that, it destabilizes the whole sport. So just a word about Phil Steele. Now let's move along. Go ahead. You and the response. Go ahead.
Let me throw one thing out at you, Tony.
Yeah.
Well, while we got a chance here. Now, all my conversations with the coaches are off the record, and I don't bring up specific things. I'm not going to bring up a specific name, but I can tell you that there's a team that struggled last year, and their coach told me that their starting quarterback was taking during a bye week, took trips. Even though he's still on the team, still a starting quarterback, took trips to school because he was going to enter the portal at the end of the year. That was one of the reasons that the team struggled. So that goes on during the course of the season. Man. Teams are actually recruiting players, which I can't tell you how that would bother me as a head coach.
It would run all over me. Like if I was Josh Heupel and a kid came to me in December and I found out that you're my starting quarterback and that you're talking to other schools in my league, I would tell him and his father, get your stuff and get the hell out of my office. I don't want to see you. We don't need you, because your quarterbacks have to be different. But that's another story for another day. Phil, let's talk about this upcoming Tennessee year. One of the things that you do for us here, which I love, is you'll give us the numbers in terms of looking at Tennessee's schedule. And let's go ahead and go through, if we can, the numbers. And let's start on August the 30th with Syracuse. What's the number you have by that game?
I got Tennessee a 14-point favorite in that one.
Okay. By the way, what kind of club does Syracuse have, and do you find them dangerous in that one? Are they potentially dangerous? Because I know the Brown guys does a really nice job. The McCord kid being out of eligibility helps Tennessee. They were very good at the end of last year. Do you think Syracuse comes into that one with a fighting chance, or no?
No, I got Tennessee by 14. When you look at Fran Brown, he did a tremendous job last year. They do bring in Steve Angeli coming over from Notre Dame, but not the experienced quarterback that Kyle McCord was. They lose their top running back, 1,000-yard rusher, and LaQuint Allen. They lose their top 3 receivers from last year. They lose the bulk of the offensive line and a good portion of the defense as well. I thought last year he had a more veteran unit, brought in some key transfers, but this year with just 2 starters back on offense, I think Syracuse is going to struggle, and they play a brutal schedule as well, so there would be nowhere near last year's 10-win total. I like the Vols to win that one, especially with the game in Atlanta.
First of many difficult games for Syracuse this year. I do think Fran Brown does a nice job. All right, ETSU, do you have a number by that?
Over 40.
All right. The Georgia game, September 13th in Knoxville. It's a 3:30 start, one of those marquee window games. What do you think?
I've got Georgia winning the SEC this year. In fact, I think they'll be favored in all 12 of their games. Last year, remember, they had to play 3 really tough road games, and it caught up to them a little bit during the season. I've got Georgia a 6-point favorite in that game, even in Knoxville. Early Vegas line that I saw in the game did have Georgia a 7-point favorite.
That's respectable. It seems like the gap is closing. Georgia kind of coming back to the pack, even though they're a favorite. What is the smallest line that you have next to Georgia? Do you have that near you, or do you have that offhand?
Yeah, let me flip over to my page.
Sure.
I read all the lines that I go through every game, and
sure. Take your time.
The shortest line I have is the Texas game at 3.
Wow.
And then the Alabama game at 4. But both of those games are at home for Georgia.
So Tennessee on the road is a 6-point favorite. They're a 6-point favorite, which is a highly respectable number. Moving along, the UAB Blazers on September 20.
How about 38?
How about damn? How about that sounds painful?
Trent Dilfer has his one arm tied behind his back with that UAB organization that they have going on there. Tough time keeping players. I remember in the spring he just lost basically everybody. His job's on the line, but it shouldn't be a reflection on Trent Dilfer. He's got one arm tied behind his back.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it at a spot like that unless you are able to just find guys and continue to put into the top of the funnel, because they're coming out of that funnel faster than they should in the modern age. Mississippi State on September 20.
I got Tennessee a 10-point favorite on the road.
All right. Arkansas in a return engagement of last year, a game in Neyland Stadium on October 11.
Both teams coming off a bye. Tennessee playing with revenge. I went Tennessee minus 10 in that one. Normally I'd have it tighter because Sam Pittman is a tremendous underdog coach. This guy pulls more upsets than any coach, around. And when he does lose, they usually lose close ones against the big boys. But the fact Tennessee's playing with revenge, I've made it 10.
Alabama on October 18 there.
I've got Tennessee a 10-point dog at Alabama. I think Alabama under Kalen DeBoer is going to have a fantastic second season. Remember his second season at Washington, they made it all the way to the national title game. I know they're replacing their quarterback, but this is a loaded Alabama team, and they're at home where they just don't lose. So I've got a 10-point favorite. I did see an early Vegas line on that, which has Alabama an 11.5-point favorite.
See, I think it's curious that people are sleeping on DeBoer in Alabama. Two things. First of all, he's recruiting really well going forward. Secondly, if they can figure it out here in year two with Ty Simpson, and I think they're going to be very good as well. They're a team I'm buying. So you might ought to reconsider your position. But it just seems like this guy has been a stone-cold winner everywhere he's been. Why wouldn't he win there? It makes sense that he's going to win there.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you 100% on all accounts, Tony.
Kentucky is a club that looks like, with Stoops, to watch the life cycle of these coaches, and it looks like he's at kind of towards the bottom of his rung a little bit, at least in this iteration. What is your number in that one on October the 25th?
Kentucky's always tough as a home underdog, but I think the Vols are the better team across the board. So I've got Tennessee a 7-point favorite in that game.
November the 1st, a very curious, interesting team. Mateer comes in, one of these high-profile transfers with his offensive coordinator from Washington State. How much of Mateer will be left by November the 1st with the schedule Oklahoma plays? I believe you mentioned them earlier, and if you didn't, look, Texas got the generous schedule. Oklahoma's gotten the short end of the stick here with those two teams coming into the league. And last year it was tough going for them, tough sledding. What's your number here way out on November 1 when Oklahoma visits Knoxville?
Yeah, and to me, this may be the key game on the Tennessee schedule as to what type of team they are, and a key game on the Oklahoma schedule as well. I actually have the game a toss-up, Tony, and the reason is this. When I went over their roster with Coach Venables, their defense, there was nothing wrong with their defense last year. They played great defense, allowed just 318 yards per game, held opponents to 95 yards per game, below their season average, despite that rugged schedule. It was number 4 in the country in that category. The problem with Oklahoma last year, they had 0 returning starters on the offensive line. At one point, they were down their top 5 wide receivers. Well, now the receiving core gets those injured guys back. Gaz added players through the portal. They have a receiving core. They got Jaden Ott added in at running back along with Javonte Barnes. You talked about Mateer at quarterback running the same offense he ran at Washington State, and now a veteran offensive line. They're going to have a much improved offense. I really thought going through the roster with Coach Venables that this is a playoff caliber Oklahoma team. So to me, this is a key game for both teams. I've got the game at Pick'em coming in. Tennessee, I have questions. Offensive line's a little inexperienced. Defensive line lost a lot. Receiving core lost their top 3 guys. They lose a 1,000-yard rusher. I think that's going to be a key game for both team seasons.
It's going to be a crazy, interesting game. And to your point, I remember last year watching that Oklahoma bunch. We were playing music on a Friday night down at Calhoun's on the river, and it was beautiful down there. And I remember looking up and watching them struggle with Temple. And I'm watching the screen, as I'm sitting there playing guitar, and I'm looking up going, there's no way in the world that team's going to stay on the field with anybody in this league. They couldn't even block Temple that night, Phil. And Oklahoma looks to be, that's too proud of a program. They invested in their deal, and they got a coach fighting for his life. Let's move along. So a straight pick'em, Oklahoma in Knoxville, Phil Steele says. New Mexico State on November the 15th. That's our Amachi tailgate game, our Keith Hatfield Annual Memorial Amachi tailgate game. New Mexico State, what's your number in that one?
35.
All right, let's move along. This has been a sore spot for us down through the years. Tennessee, for whatever reason, they haven't won in 20-plus years in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, while the likes of Southern Miss and Vanderbilt and other people have gone in there and won games. Tennessee makes it look impossible playing there, including under this coach. What is the number November 22nd when the Vols visit Florida?
Now, so far, the first two numbers I gave you that Vegas has a number out, Georgia and Alabama. I was siding with Tennessee in those games.
Okay.
This one, I'm actually siding a little bit with Florida. I think they played extremely well in the Swamp. They've got more coming back than Tennessee does this year. And the Vegas line on this right now is Tennessee +3. But I actually have Florida a 6-point favorite in this game. I think the Gators may just be a slightly better team and are at home, especially if DJ Lagway is 100% healthy.
Yeah, my concern about, and look, when you start projecting ahead with these lines, and any of these futures, right, it all depends on how healthy you are. I guess the other thing about Florida, Phil, would be how much does that rugged schedule beat up their entire football team? Because they truly have a brutal schedule. That's an awful schedule they have to go through.
Yeah, once again. And I remember talking to Coach Napier last year. We were going over the schedule. I'm like, Coach, you're playing the toughest schedule in the country. He goes, Phil, at the end of the year, you're not going to think it was quite as tough. And what he meant by that was he felt that they would beat some teams like LSU and Mississippi and Florida State, and that you'd look at the schedule at the end of the year and you wouldn't rank them number one. And I did not rank them as the toughest schedule at the end of the year. I did at the beginning of the year. And this year, to play at LSU, at Miami of Florida, Texas, and at Texas A&M in a 4-game stretch, even though they do have a bye in there, and then later play Georgia and at Ole Miss and Tennessee. That is a brutal schedule. And keep in mind, their season final against Florida State. Florida State's going to be more towards 2 years ago's team than they were last year's squad.
Phil Steele, another team, as we go through Tennessee and the numbers, and Phil does this for us every year, Vanderbilt, on November 29, another team with whom the rigors of the league really will take its toll. The Pavia kid that Tennessee saw last year in Nashville and the Pavia kid that Alabama saw were two different quarterbacks. He was all beaten up. It's part of the deal. What is your number in that game?
Yeah, I have Tennessee a 14-point favorite, and it could go either way for exactly what you just mentioned, Tony. If Pavia is 100% healthy, I'd probably make it a little bit tighter because he can pull some upsets. But if it's the same quarterback that was there, banged-up quarterback at the end of the year, or let's say he gets injured in that one, then I'd make it more than that. But I thought 14 was a safe number for this far away from the game.
Hey Phil, before I let them let you tell them where they can find you and all that good stuff, I really appreciate your time. Playoff teams out of the league are?
I have to say definitely Georgia, definitely Texas. I think Texas will be the pick to win the SEC this year by the media. Definitely Alabama, and then I would say it comes down to Oklahoma or LSU. Would be the next best choices, with teams like Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Tennessee right behind them.
Phil Steele, you are absolutely incredible. By the way, on the way out, have you seen a line? I don't know if you said. You gave us a line for the Oklahoma game. Have you seen a line for the Oklahoma game in Vegas anywhere, like on any of your sources?
I have not, and I'm still waiting for Westgate to supply me their lines, but they're not going to do that for another week or two. They usually have the lines on games that aren't there. But no, I have not seen one yet. I would anticipate Tennessee would be about a 3-point favorite.
What are the handles like at this time of the year when those lines flash up? Do the handles pop, or do people generally wait in that market when you see these signature lines that pop up?
I believe there's limited action on the marquee games.
Okay.
I don't think they're taking full wagers on them.
Okay. Phil, tell folks how they can find you, and it's always, you gave us like 50 minutes. What can I say?
I appreciate that, Tony. And, the best places to get the magazine right now, head out to your local Barnes & Noble or Books A Million. We're exclusively with Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. Those are the only two places you can get it, so don't go to Kroger's or the grocery stores to try to get it. Barnes & Noble, Books A Million are the two places to get the magazine. Or you can go online to philsteele.com right now. And when you go to philsteele.com, it costs to ship things, Tony, so we're going to charge you a shipping charge. But we also give you the digital magazine absolutely free. And with the digital magazine, we actually update that thing all the way through September. So if a player gets injured out for the year during August, we'll have him circled. If something changes with a head coach, remember last year the head coach of Utah State got fired over the summer, we have all that updated in the digital magazine. So Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, or philsteele.com to get your magazine for this year. But it's 360 pages, biggest ever, Tony, and it's heavy as usual. It's a lot of information. How long do you think it takes you to read one of those in the course of a year?
You think I've ever read through your whole magazine? Are you kidding me? No, I might, to depress myself, I'll look at like I grew up a Temple football fan, so I might look and see what's left of their carcass on the side of the road. The thing I love, though, and I was talking about this, when you endeavor to do what you do, which is to have a capsule on every team, like you were saying before, things are, and I'm not here to carry water for you, but things have to fall through the cracks, man. We're all human. And I would imagine, knowing you, it drives you absolutely nuts when you see a typo in your magazine or just anything, just any little error, but you've got a million. How many facts do you think are in that book, Phil? How many facts? What do you think the number is?
There are over 1 million words and numbers in the magazine each year. And,
over 1 million.
If you have 0.1%, you're talking like 10,000 typos. You can't have that. So it's got to be some. And yes, you are absolutely correct. Whenever there is, and there are a few bigger typos in this year's magazine, which really, really bothered me when we sent that thing off to the press. And but it's a labor of love. It's something that takes 7 months to produce, Tony.
Phil Steele, you're the man. Thank you, brother. Great talking with you.
Hey, always enjoy it. And Tony, once again, thank you for 31 years. Cool. Let's hope we do it another 31, huh?
Hey, man, praise God for longevity, and I love being here. Thank you, man. Good talking to you.
All right.
The great Phil Steele, one more time on your TLD Logistics phone line,